Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton, and welcome to a live, well, not a live match reaction, but a live stream of the game against Fulham on Saturday. I think, getting into it, we lost 1-0, and I think it's one of those, it's a disappointing start to the season, to be completely honest with you. It's one of those where you look at it and you think, really, we should have done better than that. You look at the statistics from the game and everything, you look at it and go, some of the chances you go, I don't know how we didn't win that in general, but we're going to go through it today. We're going to have a look at what happened. I'm going to give some player ratings. And then, it's just back to usual. I guess Everton losing, It's one of those things that we're just going to have to get used to as time goes on, really. But we'll wait until a few people are in the stream and then we'll do my fancy little screen sharing thing to see, just to have a look at how the game went, really. You all right, Owen? We're just going to get a few people in the chat first and then we'll get going. But while we're waiting, before I get into stuff like player ratings and stuff, please put what you thought on the game in the chat. And obviously, before we get started, there was the whole Neil Maupay incident. When get that out of the way now, I think it's honestly, it was ridiculous. The guy had a bad game, like a really bad game, but stuff like that's ridiculous. I don't care if it's a Fulham fan and Everton fan. I couldn't care less. It was stupid that, over what is, it might annoy some people, what is a game. It's a competitive game and it means a lot to some people, but what is a game? Putting stuff like that to people is just not right, man. It don't matter how much you dislike the player. I'm not the biggest fan of Neil Maupay in the slightest, but, it doesn't mean I'm going to say things like that, or it doesn't mean I'd even think things like that about him, So I think get that out of the way early into the stream before we start getting into him and talking about his performance and stuff like that. So later on in the stream, I don't have to mention it again. We can just talk about his performance in the game, nothing outside of the game. But so going into things, I think going into it is I didn't really expect us to be that good creating the chances. To be honest with you, I think we created quite a lot of chances, and I think it surprised me the amount we did create. I thought Fulham were going to create a majority of the chances and dominate the game, to be honest. And if we did win, I thought we were going to sneak it by creating maybe one or two good chances and hopefully capitalising on them. I know that we did. We've had problems with that all season, really, last season, where we would create chances and not tuck them away. But even on Saturday, it felt completely different to what it felt like last season. We weren't just creating chances; we were creating consistently good chances. And again, I don't want to harp on Maupay too much because the guy's got enough abuse. But we had a half decent striker up front, and I think we win that game comfortably 3-0 and 3-1 if we're going to include Fulham's goal. Owen puts here, we were cheated out of a goal. Why didn't VAR get involved? It should have been given. I think every referee under the sun has basically come out and said, who's got some rolling punditry, has basically come out and said it should have been a goal. But the rule is the referee basically blew his whistle just before the ball went into the net, or just before Keane hit the ball, which meant it didn't have to be checked for VAR because it had already been called. So basically, a rule that probably shouldn't be in place in the first place, because then it's just going, well, if the referee blows his whistle, unlucky mate, we move on. It's just it's just one of those things where it's the first game of the season and we've already had a ridiculous thing that's cost us. If we're going to say Fulham still score in the end, it's cost us a point, which you got with how we've been this season. A point is massive. A point is huge for the way we've been. And I know a point at Goodison against Fulham should never be huge, but that's the way we've been the past 2 seasons. So it's one of those where, again, I think it's just going to be another season of referee apologies. Hopefully it gets better, but we've seen over the past few years, not just with Everton, with every team in the Premier League, it's not just us this happens to. With every team in the Premier League, that the refs don't know how to do their jobs. They're inept when it comes to just doing a simple task. And I know refereeing is a hard job and all, but these are at the top of the top. Premier League footballers get the same amount of stick when they miss chances and stuff. So the referees are going to get stick when they can't do their job properly. It's as simple as that. The rule goes both ways, really, to players and referees, even if the abuse can get out of hand sometimes. But if we just go into the game, I'm going to need to make sure I'm actually remember how to do this. It's been a while since I've actually done this, of course, with the season being over and stuff. So I need to actually make sure I remember how to do this in the first place. So I think I've got it right there. We go. Here we go. Here's the game. We're just going to go through all the player ratings, really. I think because one thing I will say was with stuff like Fault Mob, I do I do usually disagree with the stuff they put. Is there a way I can make this look a little better? No, that is ridiculous. No one wants to say that. No, that one's just as crap, to be honest. We'll stick with that one. Yeah, we'll put this in. Owen says that he thinks Onana was our best player. I think he's definitely up there. I think a few players had a really good game and really stood out. But if we're gonna go, we'll might as well go in order of the things. Pickford, if it should load. Oh, perfect, it does. It didn't really have to do much. He only made one save. He didn't, like I said, 6. Yeah, I probably agree with what they put. He didn't have to do anything really, and he conceded again. It one of those. It was a decent finish. So, but it's like I said, it's hard to give anything more to Pickford than a 6. That because he was just, yeah, he didn't have to do much. It's hard to give him anything that's above average because he didn't do anything and he conceded. But like I said, it's no slight on Pickford really. But Nathan Patterson, I don't know how he's been given a higher rating than Ashley Young. I'm sorry, but I don't have an idea on any planet how Nathan Patterson got a higher rating. Like, he touched the ball a lot. He touched the ball a lot, but what else did he do well? You know, I don't know if this is just me overreacting. I thought Nathan Patterson was terrible. He seemed to get burned constantly every time. He was constantly out of position. Like, I know that the entire back four was awful for that Fulham goal. But when Nathan Patterson was in another post goal, Nathan Patterson, you know, was back in Glasgow for that goal. You know, it was ridiculous. It was. But again, he's a young lad. He's barely played because of his injuries. And it's the first game of the season. Every player is going to be a little bit rusty. So I don't want to harp on players acting like this is what they're going to be like for the rest of the season, because I think everyone knows that's not the case and that players will improve, hopefully. You know, our players seem to get worse as the season goes on. But like I said, again, hopefully Patterson will improve. He needs to, because we need to stop relying on James Coleman at right back. But a 5, yeah, I don't think he was the worst player on the pitch, so he won't get the worst rating. But he also just wasn't good at all. And I think he could have done so much better, to be honest with you, to the point where, yeah, I think it was a disappointing performance of Patterson overall. Keane, I think Keane was okay. Got robbed of a goal. He had a few decent chances. You know, got 2 shots on target as well. And I think he was okay. You know, I don't like, again, what I will say is he should have been in position for that goal. Sorry, he should have been in position for Fulham's goal. But again, probably a 6 again. I don't want to lower him to the same level as Patterson. I don't think he was very good. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think he was bad either. I'd probably give the same thing to Tarkowski, to be honest with you. I don't know. There's nothing Tarkowski did that really blew me away this game. You know, it was just an okay game. You know, like, don't worry, that boy. We'll get to this when I give Decore his rating. You know, but again, I don't think, you know, like Owen puts here, Keane scared me. Again, I don't think Tarkowski did anything better than Keane that game. I think they were both level with each other. Obviously, Tarkowski's the better player for us, and he proved it last season. He had some really impressive performances. But from just going off that game, there was nothing to differentiate the two, in my opinion. So yeah, it's one of those where, you know, what else am I supposed to say really? But then moving on to someone who I think should actually get a bump up from what they got, Ashley Young. I'd give Ashley Young a 7. I don't know about you lot, but if we just get the stats here up, the attacking stats, I was really impressed with Ashley Young. I thought he was really good going forward. I thought he linked up with Iwobi quite well on that side. For someone who's like, 38? Does it say there? 38 years old, I was very impressed. He's already looks comfortably better than Mykolenko. And I don't even think it's close, to be honest with you. If we're just going off from what I've seen in that game, it's one of those where it's hard really to get a gauge on it. But again, I think Ashley Young, for a player who's at the twilight of his career, looked really impressive. He looked sharp on the ball. He looks quick for a 38-year-old as well. There were a few times where he got beat, but I think that was because we were rushing forward and the fullbacks were trying to overlap and get involved in the attack, especially since Iwobi did want to drift centrally at points. But again, I think Ashley Young really impressed. I'd be very surprised if Mykolenko comes back into the starting lineup now. I think it's Ashley Young's spot to lose now after that game with how poor Mykolenko's been over the past few months. I'd be very surprised if Ashley Young isn't back in the lineup. And like I said, it's his crossing, his delivery of the ball. It's having that at fullback. It's not to the level we had when we had Digne at the club, but it's the one thing we missed since we replaced Digne with Mykolenko. He had the delivery of the ball that when we have a striker with some aerial ability, then I could see real promise with having someone like Ashley Young on set pieces, on with whipping the ball in. And I think it helps that having someone where like I said, Iwobi, again, we'll get into Iwobi now, who was, in my opinion, anyway, I think Iwobi was probably my pick for man of the match. I think he did absolutely everything. I think he looked comfortably better to anything even I'd seen last season from him, to be completely honest with you. He looked like a completely different player, in my opinion. He looked, like I said, I know he had that good run of form last season, but to me in this game, that looked better than most things we saw last season. It's one of those where you look at it and go, even pace-wise, he looked quicker off the dribble. He was beating players off the run. He was gliding past people. Everything you wanted from a winger, Iwobi did. You look at the one chance I look at and I say, right, come on. And it isn't even his fault, is the cross where Decore, and it then Decore chested it and it fell to Morpe. That is one of the best crosses I've seen Iwobi put in his time at the club. It was picture perfect. It landed right where it needed to and should have been a goal. Might have been aimed for Decore to score it, but it still should have been a goal in the end. So it wouldn't. I'll get to Morpe later, but even just talking about it baffles me, the fact that he didn't even get one goal in the game. But yeah, I think Iwobi was fantastic. And, a lot of people, myself included, have had gripes about Iwobi playing on the wing because of the pace issue and the pace issue and the fact that he doesn't really beat people with his physical abilities. It's more with his technical abilities. But he showed he has a trick of pace, and it looks like he's been training a lot over the summer because he looked like he's improving even more this season. And if he got what 6 or 7, maybe even 8 assists last season, maybe even to get even more if we're actually able to create. He should have had 2 or 3 assists this game. Never mind, this season. It's ridiculous that how many. Like I said, I don't want to harp on Iwobi too much, but I was watching the game and all he did was impress me. I know we lost, and people, it's like Jack puts it here, people just like to give the players it for no reason. But I'm not. Why would I give crap to a player who's done nothing but impress that game? He didn't put a foot wrong, in my opinion. What I don't get what people were expecting of him, to be honest. But we move on from Alex Iwobi to another player who I don't know where they got a 6.8 from. I don't understand on what planet this website got a 6.8 from, but again, another fantastic performance from Onana. Again, for someone who's only 21, composed in the midfield. Some of the passes he was playing, I think he played, someone might have to correct me if they remember, but he played, I think he was on the right side. It will have been to Iwobi, I think. He played a diagonal ball, but like a ground one, down the left-hand side, and it just fizzed perfectly to Iwobi. Or it might have been Young, straight to the foot, and it was just, I looked at that and went, that's just the ability this guy has and the potential that he has too is out of this world. You see Man United going in for him, and I like exactly why clubs like that want him. Dat boy puts here, I was confused as to why people thought Onana was quiet that game. He wasn't quiet at all. The thing is, you look at a defender like Rodri this season and last season as well, how involved in the games he could get at times. People expect that, and Casemiro. But again, you're comparing him to the best defensive midfielders in the world. A lot of defensive midfielders do their work and it goes unnoticed. Again, I think that's what Onana did. He was fantastic on the ball. He was calm. He was composed. And, you look at the way he's playing and say, why could Onana not be a linchpin in midfield for a heavy possession side? Because he might have had limited touches, and when he did get on the ball, it wasn't much. But everything he did when he got on the ball, whether it was winning it, playing it, creating opportunities, he did it well. And why am I going to sit and judge a player who had a good performance? Again, I think the team were let down by one silly mistake in defence, which led to them scoring, and an all-time bad performance up front, in my opinion. I'm not trying to, like I said, I'm not going to harp on the guy too much because he got enough abuse as it is, but I am going to give my opinion. And, how bad that performance was, one of the worst I've seen in a long time. I don't care if he got into the positions. The goals were simple. I genuinely think when I say that a pedestrian could have scored some of those goals, but yeah, someone off the street probably could have got one. Or at least you look at someone like a National League North player probably scores that. Doesn't mean they're better than Morpe, but it's just that finishing up front is just, it was awful that game. I don't know what it was, if there was, something in his head that game or something, but it was just absolutely dreadful. Just a game actually looks like he was the highest rated player of the game. And I wouldn't agree with that. But again, a really solid performance from Idrissa Gueye. It's hard to say, 15 ball recoveries. I think, again, he was a great. He did his job fantastically well. And for someone who's 33 right now, he didn't look like he was running out of energy one bit. And I think the one area that I do have some confidence in with Everton is our midfield, because our midfield is nowhere near relegation level, in my opinion. I actually think it's quite a lot higher than that. We're just let down at times in defence and attack. But the midfield's really good, and they both, well, 2 out of the 3 put in really good performances. I guess if you want to count Garner as a defense as a central midfielder, you played more on the right, but the midfield's the one area on the pitch I'm actually quite confident with, and I think they should. Most of them, besides one specific player who we'll get to in a minute, really impressed and did everything they were supposed to do. Just again won the ball, recycled possession, and got the ball forward. That's what he was supposed to do, and he had me convinced for a minute that he scored at the end of the game when it fell to him at the edge of the box as well. So again, a player that there's not much to really harp on, but he did his job well. And I think he had a really impressive performance. But then another player who was impressive, in my opinion, James Garner. A player who was actually in contention to probably start at right back after his performances in the Euros for England, or in the under-21s Euros anyway. And I can imagine that he's being considered, especially if Patterson drops another stinker against Villa. But yeah, I think James Garner was really impressive. And he's just, the thing I like about James Garner is he's just such a composed player. And yeah, I know it says there that he had 14% of his crosses completed, but he is a central midfielder. Again, I think another player who did his job and did it well. And I think, like I said, another one with Garner is it's hard to really pick out specific moments and go, this is what he did well, this is what he did well. But it's one of those where he did his job that he was supposed to do. And I think if we're going to play a midfield 3, I think I know from going off this game, the 3 that I'd pick quite easily, to be honest with you. I know, and we'll get on to Decore now. I thought Decore stunk. That's the brutal. Like, again, it's the same criticism I'm about to give to Morpe, is that he got in the chat positions right as well. Don't get me wrong, but the one thing that it's just burned into my memory is him being 1-on-1 and just kicking it. All we did all game was kick the ball at Leno. Leno had a really good game, don't get me wrong, but like the amount of chances that were just kicked at Leno's chest were unbelievable this game. It was a joke how many times it happened. And, he's lucky Morpe performed as badly as he did, or Decore would have been, on the chopping block for the fans, because how he didn't square that to James Garner is beyond belief. It is beyond, like, don't get me wrong, right? Decore has plenty of energy and he always tries his heart out, and he creates into positions, and he's good at creating chances, to be fair to him. But it's hard to praise someone who just gives away what was practically a free goal. It wasn't practically, it was a free goal. All he had to do was roll the ball across to Garner. He didn't have to put any power on it, even any thought into it. But he wanted the glory. It's as simple. It's pretty obvious. He had tunnel vision. It happens to a lot of footballers, don't get me wrong, but I'm then not going to say that he doesn't deserve stick for it. And again, Decore in the 10 as an attacking midfielder, no. I'm just sorry, but no. I'd much rather us play like Danjuma out wide and Iwobi as the 10, or Iwobi out wide and Danjuma in that position, because we had at times where everyone came back and defended. We had, when you're having to rely on Decore as your creative outlet, it was a good player and technically good, don't get me wrong, but you're going to get in these positions. I think I haven't give ratings for the past few players. Onana would probably get the same as Iwobi. I'd give Iwobi an 8. I'd give both of them an 8. Idrissa Gueye would get a 7, Garner would get a 6, and Decore gets a 5, the same as Patterson. And, I think now's the moment that everyone was waiting to come. Again, a 6.3 is ridiculously generous. Because you look at all 3 of those shots on target for Morpe there, all 3 of them should have been goals. All 3 of them, he should have had a hat-trick. He has no excuse. It was an all-time bad performance. Because, do you know what? It probably would have been worse if he went completely anonymous. But the fact that he got given 3 simple chances, especially the one from the Iwobi cross, where it was literally flicked into him. I don't know what he tried to do when he could have just side-footed it. It looked like he tried some stupid shit, and he could have just side-footed it and it went in. And then the other 2 times he just kicked the ball at Leno. Like, again, Leno had a fantastic performance, but it's hard to really put Leno's performance to a top level when our striker was kicking the ball at him. Because outwardly, that's just what happened. It was... I'd struggle to see any Everton player put in a worse performance than that this season. I think Neil Maupay has started the season with what will end as the worst performance of the season, because especially if it has some consequences going into the end of it, because fans are going to look back at this game and go, we had no right to lose that game. No right. We shouldn't have lost this game at all. Probably, we should have, going off Maupay's chances, won 3-1 at least, and Maupay should have had a hat-trick. But he didn't. He missed 3 simple chances, and I said what I said at the start. I'm not going to say it again now about the abuse and stuff, but I can't get what I don't know. I can't give him like any more than like a 2. I can't. I genuinely, in my mind, I can't give him anything more than that, because it was just simple gilt-edged chances. And like I said, I'm all for players proving me wrong. You know, if Neil Maupay sees all the abuse he's getting and puts 110% effort in and makes everyone look like a mug at the end of the season, people are going to be happy with that. But going off that first performance, what are we supposed to say about it? Like, what are we supposed to say in terms of, oh, you'll get him next time, Maupay? Because he did all this last season too. All last season, he just missed simple chance after simple chance. And it's just, he's got 1 goal for the club. He probably should have, I don't even want to think about how many. You could probably go through and pick them. But even if we don't look, he should have at least 4 now, because he should have started his season off with a hat-trick. And I think he will be disappointed in himself, don't get me wrong, because he works hard, and there's the one credit I'll give Neil Maupay is he's a really hard worker. But in front of goal, he's absolutely abysmal for a striker. Like, it is poor. He plays like a defender up front. You know, I'd have expected defenders to bury that. I've seen Everton defenders bury those multiple times. Look at some of the goals Michael Keane scored for us. And then you look at Neil Maupay and go, well, how can't you score that, you know? And the thing is, when you say this, is I don't think we did last game. I actually think we played last game to Maupay's strengths, and it showed, because he got plenty of chances. If we were playing these high crosses to Calvert-Lewin, like it was Calvert-Lewin, I'd get it. But the time we did play a cross, it was aimed at Decore, who is a reasonable aerial threat. And then it was tapped to Maupay, who just couldn't score the most simple of chances. It's like I said, I refuse to give the guy an excuse. He was absolutely awful beyond belief. And like I said, I'm happy to be proven wrong. I'm happy for him to come out and make everyone look like mugs, like Iwobi did a few seasons ago, when Iwobi first started to really improve. But can I see that happening? Not really, to be honest with you. The subs, there's not really much to talk about. I think it's criminal that Maupay lasted 72 minutes on the pitch. That's the last I'm going to say on him. I think Danjuma should have come in earlier, and I think Danjuma had a pretty good chance, and that was a bit disappointed in the end as well. But it's hard to really gauge, because by the time as soon as Danjuma came on, we conceded. It's not his fault, but Danjuma came on, and a minute later we were 1-0 down. And I think that, again, it's one of those with Everton where we went 1-0 down, and it's just the energy was sucked out of the team. So I don't really know what else to say in that matter of fact, but it was. I think a lot of players impressed in the game, especially in the midfield. I think the midfield impressed a lot. But Ashley Young, but I think the defence and the attack once again let this team down massively and got us in the position where Fulham were able to take a chance, and they were able to score. And it's pretty simple. They took the chances, we didn't. And to be honest with you, going into the game, I thought it was going to be the complete opposite. I thought it was going to be Fulham peppering the goal and we take a chance and nick it 1-0. But it's gone the reverse way. And the only thing we're lucky at going into the next game against Villa is they somehow got battered worse than us. Well, we didn't get battered at all, but they had a somehow even worse result than us. So that's the only, bright side looking into Villa. But I think that is where we're going to stop with all the talking about the game. That's the player ratings and probably my opinion on the game overall from what I've given. I thought we should have been a lot better with our chances. We need to be. I'm sorry, I don't know why Calvert-Lewin didn't play. He's saying he's fit, and then I don't know what Sean Dyche is saying, but there's a point where there's being cautious and then there's doing what Sean Dyche is doing. If Calvert-Lewin thinks he's fit and everyone's saying he's fit, there's no reason he shouldn't be playing, especially after that Maupay performance. So, but yeah, I think I don't have much time today because I've got to jet off by 6. But I think before we, but yeah, like I said, put your opinion on the game in the chat. I'll go over the chat now, and I also, before we finish, I want to get everyone's opinion on the Jack Harrison signing. It looked like that wasn't gonna go through with Villa's last minute interest, but Jack Harrison signed on loan. I do think it said he had an injury and he'll be out for another 5 to 6 weeks. I don't know how certain that is because it looks like he's passed in medical, but you can still pass a medical with an injury. So it's one of those. There we go. I think we're about here. I don't like it. He will be most games, but he was mostly good in that game. If only he could shoot. Yeah, again, I think that's the biggest problem with Iwobi's. And I think he's a much more passive player in a sense where he likes to create for others. But again, if he can get that shot down, there's no reason he can't become integral to this team. So we saw this from Irwin, all good, odd, hoping for Nonto and more signings, which Wormy then put. I think Nonto is finished now, Irwin, that they've signed Harrison. We don't know with Nonto. We'll have to see. But Eugene puts Everton needs a new striker and sell Morpay. Yeah, I think that's it. It wouldn't surprise me if Morpay's gone after this, especially with the stuff he put. It wouldn't surprise me if Morpay wants out, to be honest, after that. But, Wormy should have signed. To be honest, Wormy, I don't know who that fella is. You'll have to tune me in a bit. And then we've got the funny part about Leeds' issue would have been resolved if they had sold Nonto for 20 million. Yeah, I saw that like 8 players have left for like £8 million or something stupid like that. And then when you compare it to Leicester and Southampton, if they sell Lavia for like 50 mil, will have got like 140 mil in the Championship through expenditure from transfers, and Leicester are at like 70 million currently, and then there's Leeds. I think Leeds are in for a really bad season, to be honest with you. Losing to Birmingham, that draw with Cardiff, I think they're going to finish mid-table in the Championship, to be honest. Irwin puts, anyone want us to sign a better number 2 keeper? There has been some news about it, but like I said, I don't know what the club's plan is really. If they have enough faith in Virginia, then I'm not going to judge. Villa had a season end. Sorry, my nose is really itchy, everyone. Villa had a season-ending injury for a centre-back. Yeah, Tyrone Mings, wasn't it? Was stretched off in the game against Newcastle. So, I mean, they've got like Pau Torres and they've got Ezri Konsa. They've got really good centre-backs. So, Mings is a really good player, but I don't think it's something where we're losing out massively. And then it's Everton's ineptitude in the window cost us 3 points against Fulham is the only way to look at it. I do think so. I think Sean Dyche should have made subs earlier. I think the game plan overall was pretty good. This is the one thing I'll give it to Sean Dyche. The pressing was good to see. A few young players with good potential were on the bench, which I like to see with Dobbin and Cannon. But I really think he should have made subs earlier. And I think he just stuck with blind faith for Morpay when he probably should have hooked him off at half-time. Thanks to that. I knew his perspective was probably he's creating chances and eventually he'll put one away, but he didn't. And I think, hindsight's everything. But I think a lot of Everton fans knew Morpay wasn't going to put a chance away as well. So full back for Fenerbahce that plays both sides, has like 8 goals and surprisingly good defensive stats. Yeah, I'm not against it. Bringing in a defender from the Turkish league. He's a fullback, but you see how good players like Kim Min-jae have done ever since coming to Napoli from Fenerbahce. So I don't see why not. And the price would probably be cheaper than it would be with most other leagues anyway. We've signed him from the Turkish league, so I don't see why not bring someone like that in. But yeah, we'll just have probably a little chat about Harrison before we go. I think it's a good deal. I've said for 20 million, I'm not the biggest fan of Jack Harrison. But on a loan where he can prove himself, I am, because it gives us... the one thing I will say is it puts us in a good position on the wings with Iwobi, Danjuma. If Dobbin sticks around and doesn't go on loan, Harrison, Gray, depending... But apparently Harrison's taking the 11, which means I think Gray's gone. McNeil, when he comes back, I think there's some good options on the wing who can play on the wing. So it makes me feel a little bit more... And, we wanted another winger, so it does give me some hope that now we can get in maybe another central defender if we can get rid of someone like Holgate. And then, probably a right back maybe now, looking at it, unless Garner's going to play right back. So, yeah, if we sell Onana, we need 2 midfielders. Yeah, you're probably right there, Irwin. But I think it depends on the money we can get. I think it depends on the money we get. There's rooms of 50 million, and apparently Man United want to include players. If we could get 50 million and players, then all of a sudden that sounds really good. But a fit Harrison is okay. but a player that's injured for 6 weeks minimum then has to get fit. That's exactly it. And I don't, like I said, I don't know if that's 6 weeks, including some recovery. And again, Wormy puts Harrison in his desperation. I think it is, but I'm also not going to complain about it because it's a good deal. I don't know what I think the club just plans on probably letting Dobbin play that role for now and maybe seeing if he can earn a spot. I think the thing is with him at Derby's, there were moments, but also he was struggling a little bit in League One, so it's really hard to say we should have a player like that coming off the bench. But I think he's got the pace. I think he's got the willingness to take a man on to be a good player. But again, it is desperation having a player who was struggling to start consistently in League One, even though he had his impressive moments, and then bringing him to play in the Premier League. Owen plus Adam Forshaw is on a free and will be okay cover, but we need a starting player. I wouldn't mind Adam Forshaw as cover at all. Yeah, I think that'd be a decent signing as cover. But yeah, if Onana we need a good quality starter in his place, to be honest with you. And I don't know where the club's going to find that because I don't trust the club with its transfer strategy, to be honest. But that's the way it is. But anyway, I think that is going to be all for me, or else I'm going to end up being late for something. Thank you all for watching. If you did enjoy the stream, please make sure to like and subscribe. Follow the Toffee Blues on Twitter at Everton Newsfeed and follow me on Twitter at Callum3. And I'm quickly going to read 2 more comments before I go. That boy puts minimum 70 mil, I will let him go. I'm probably in the same boat there. And Wormy puts, should have spent 10 million on Iheanacho, a player that fits the striker and would have scored 2 and got an assist against Fulham. Again, something that I've been saying on practically every video on stream I've been on is that Iheanacho would be a really good signing, so I agree. We are just getting linked to all the Leeds players, and then we'll leave this comment. But again, thank you all for watching. If you did enjoy, please make sure to like and subscribe, all the other stuff I said. And I will see you for the next video on stream that I'm on. Goodbye, everyone.